Okay, so this is the flour. It's a bit like high protein corn flour, like around 11%. This water, right? You can see, and salt. So these are the liquid ingredients, and this is solid ingredients. So again, today we are using this one machine, and this is actually CE version. So um, a lot of our customers are using this machine mainly in Europe, like EU countries. And this machine has a mixer that's 10 kilogram mixer, which means that you can mix up to 10 kilograms of solid ingredients. On top of it, you're adding liquid ingredients. And this machine is like pretty good at making meals that are 25 to maybe like up to like 40% hydration ratios. So that means like, for example, 40% hydration ratio dough, then you can make up to like 14 kilograms of dough at a time at maximum from this mixer. And so like see dissolve like all the cancy and salt in the water, right? So this is the liquid ingredient. So you have to take the amount of cancy and salt into the all the like with the water too. So 30%. Well, for example, inside 30%, let's say like this is a 30% hydration ratio. Inside 30%, there's 1% cancy, 1% salt, and then 28% water. And so she just added water, right, liquid, and then the water is liquid is dripping through the holes, small holes, right, to be added to the flour, little by little, to promote good hydration. And we can just wait for the mixing to be done. So she prepared the a batch before, and then so she put the dough into plastic bag, right? And it's like so she let the dough sit at room temperature for an hour. So that's first resting process. So that helps the develop the gluten structure inside dough, and then helps like degas the dough, and then helps like activate the like enzyme inside the dough. So that activating enzyme like kind of helps the promote the like wheat flavor of the dough. So like that's for a better taste and then better texture. And so first process that she's gonna do is that like so she's feeding the dough into the set of rollers, right? And the roller is set at 1.5 millimeter roller gap first, and then so the last sheet of dough is coming out, and she's binding it onto the rolling pin. And this rolling pin is set against the rotating roller, right? So the so she winds the dough sheet on the rolling pin, it just automatically winds it by itself. So she just keeps feeding the dough to the rollers to make rough sheet of dough. And we are going very slow at this point because we want to apply very good pressure to the dough to develop gluten structure. And so this machine has pretty big rollers. It's very important because we can apply like really strong force into the dough that's like relatively hard, right? Like 30%, hydration ratio. That's actually pretty hard. And so if you're making like this kind of dough, if you're like sheeting this kind of dough like in a process machine, which has like smaller rollers in diameter, then what that pasta machine may break after like doing few batches. So it's important to have like bigger rollers, especially when you're making hard dough like ramen noodles. So dandan noodles, like we already talked about, like so there are many. I mean, there are some like variations, like there are different types. So original Chinese types like do not use kansi. So it's just gonna be like flour, maybe like and then salt, water, and so that color is white. But like in Japan, the dandan noodles, some dandan noodle dishes like you use noodles that are very similar to ramen noodles, which use kansi. So that's why you see that color is being like a bit yellow. That's the potassium carbonate of kansi, making the color to change the color to be like a bit yellow. So in the first round of sheeting, like we made rough sheet of dough, but like it's still rough. Like rough means like it's weak, and it's very easy to like rip them apart. So you want to make it stronger by separating it into two sheets and then combining them through the rollers. So we call this process like combining process. So we make two separate sheets of dough. That's from like rough forming and putting them together through the rollers. And that was like 1.5 millimeter that's gone through. So like each sheet is supposed to be like 1.5 millimeter in thickness. So we are putting them together, right? So like two sheets into one sheet. So each sheet is like 1.5 millimeter in thickness. So like 1.5, 1.5, that's 3 millimeter equivalent of dough is going through the roller gap, right? And so 3 millimeter times 0.7, like 70% rule that we have, because we don't want to like thin it like drastically, because we want to keep the we don't want to damage the gluten structure inside dough. So we want to apply this like 70% rule every time of every round of sheeting to not to damage the gluten structure. So that's why we do like 70% rule. So like 3 millimeter times 70%, like that's 0.7. That's 2.1 millimeter. But like you want to make it simple by rounding it down to 2 millimeter. So this dough that's like supposed to be like 3 millimeter in like thickness is going through 2 millimeter roller gap. And you may be able to see that the surface, like those surface, like is smoother than before. And so that was the first combining process, and we usually do it like twice to make sure that dough is strong enough, like gluten structure is totally developed. So we'll do this process like one more time. And again, like that was like 2 millimeter roller gap, like this going through. So each sheet is supposed to be 2 millimeter in thickness. So 2 plus 2, 4, right? 4, so 4 millimeter equivalent dough is going into the roller, right? And so again, like applying 70% roll, 4 times 0.7, 2.8. But we want to round it up this time to 3 millimeter, just to make it simple. And so this time around, after the second combine process, we want to start dusting the dough to keep it from sticking. So we're gonna running this automatic duster, and you can actually control the dusting volume as well. So if you're making wetter noodles, like like higher hydration noodles, like you should dust more to keep it from sticking. So just automatically sprinkling the dusting powder onto the dough, and we usually use the dusting powder, like a special dusting powder that's probably maybe like only available in Japan, and that's made of like palm tree starch. But it's very hard to like procure it like overseas. So we usually recommend that like our customers use like such starch like corn starch, potato starch that help dough from sticking together. So after combined process, so all we have to do is just thin it to the final thickness. So after combined process, so it's the dough like gluten structure is thoroughly developed. So all we have to do is just thin it to the final thickness, and cut it into the noodles. In cutting and portioning, this machine does, and so thinning again, like we have to thin it at 70% reduction rate. So that was 3 millimeter, and so this time around that's 2 millimeter, and so next round we want to thin it at 1.5, 2 times 0.7, like that's 1.4. But we want to make it simple to like run it up like to 1.5. And she's controlling the like roller speed, and you can go faster definitely like after second combined process. So just keep thinning it. And I have to say that like so every time we sheet it, like the noodle, the thickness is the actual thickness dough is always bigger than the roller gap we set, because the dough sheet bounces back after it's gone through the roller gap. So we need to measure the actual thickness to see the difference between the actual thickness as 2.23, 2.2-ish. So the difference is like 0.7 between the actual thickness and roller gap we set. And then we can calculate what the roller gap we had to set to get the final thickness. So we can expect the final thickness to bounce back probably by 0.7 millimeter. And we're gonna cut it, right? And then the kind of cutter we use is this. It's called a slitter cutter, kind of like paper shredder. So like the dough is inserted like between this slitter, and then gets cut to noodle strands. So we set a cutter and then start cutting. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Conveyor. Like, so we're setting the conveyor to the machine, but like, we've got the conveyor in a different room, and Megumi went to get it. So please give us a bit of time. Sorry, we're taking a video like of this machine like in a different room, and we've got the conveyor there. Sorry about that. And so we're gonna cut it, right? And we want to dust the noodles that are coming out. So we set the duster there. Let's start the cutting. Okay, let's measure it. Let's measure the thickness to see if you get the final thickness right. So the cutter is number 22. That means like width is 1.4, and then the final thickness we want is 1.2 millimeter. Okay, so that's 1.2, so we got it right. Right, let's keep cutting. And the portion size, serving size is also important. And you can change the serving size by changing the length of the noodles, which is very easy to do by changing the turning volume of the cut length. So of course, like the longer the length, the noodles, the bigger the portion, and the higher the hydration actually, the bigger the portion, even if the length is the same. And the bigger the size, the thickness by width, the bigger the portion, even if the length is the same. So all these factors kind of play the role, like when in determining the serving size. And making curly is very easy to do too. We just have to put the attachment parts on the back of the cutter to make them curly. Or if the noodles are higher in hydration, like kind of softer, then we can make them curly by hand, by kind of squeezing them by hand. And so like you can actually adjust the level of like curliness, how curly you want the noodles to be as well. So it's very easy. Okay, so that was the last batch, and looks like we have about 20, like 20. Yeah, so like that was like 2 kilogram batch dough, like 2 kilograms of solid ingredients. So we get about like 20 servings, 20, yes. So that's how you make noodles for dandan noodle dish. And so that's all right. So let's start moving to our kitchen.
My name is Thomas. I'm one of the instructors at the Yamato Noodle School. And today I'll be talking about dandan noodles. So let's go to the board and quickly talk about dandan noodles. Okay, so I'm sure there's an explanation of the difference between the Chinese version and the Japanese version of dandan noodles. So today we'll be making both of them. So we're gonna be making the original Chinese version of dandan noodles, and also the Japanese version, dandan noodles with soup. Okay, so let me first talk about the Japanese version, the 5 elements that makes up that dandan noodles. So first of all, stock. Commonly, light chicken stock is used for the dandan noodles, but it can be anything: pork stock, fish stock, vegetable stock for the vegan option. Uh, and you can also have like a mixture of the stocks, and yeah, but commonly light chicken stock is used for the dandan noodles. And for the flavoring sauce, in Japanese, motodare, it's a mixture of all sorts of seasoning to make up that complicated taste. For example, savory part is made up from the soy sauce, the sourness is made up from the vinegar, and the creaminess is made up from the sesame paste. And also the flavor comes from the dry shrimp powder. Okay? So this is just a part of that seasoning, but to make up that flavoring sauce, motodare, all sorts of seasonings mixed that make up that complicated taste. Okay? And the flavored oil, chili oil is used for dandan ramen, dandan noodles. And the chili oil, the spiciness of the chili oil comes from the chili pepper, and also the tingly sensation comes from that Szechuan pepper. Okay? So all sorts of taste, flavor, and the spiciness is mixed to make up that complicated taste of that dandan noodles. Okay? And for the noodles, commonly medium or thin ramen noodles is used for dandan noodles, Japanese version. If you're looking for that Chinese version, they often use a little bit thicker noodles, and they don't use kansui. To make the ramen noodles, you add in kansui to make the ramen noodles. But for that Chinese version, they don't use kansui, so the noodle is a little bit more whiter. And for the toppings, here are some of the common toppings for dandan men. And minced pork is the most common type of topping for that dandan noodle. You usually see that minced pork right in the middle of that dandan men. And you can also use soy meat if you're having like a vegan option dandan men. And also cashew nuts, you can use that to add in extra texture. And extra Szechuan pepper and chili pepper to make it extra spicy. And also green onion, the cilantro for that extra freshness. Okay, so here's the 5 elements of the dandan noodle. And before getting into finishing off that 2 types of dandan noodles, I want to show you how to make the sesame paste and also the chili oil today. Okay, so first off, I'm going to make the sesame paste. It's very simple. You roast the sesame, and after you roast the sesame, you just add oil to it and make it into paste form. So let's get started. So here's 100 grams of sesame and 100 grams of vegetable oil. And I'm going to roast the sesame at medium heat until it's golden brown. And make sure when you're roasting the sesame, keep moving the pan so it doesn't burn one part of sesame. You want to consistently roast the sesame. So you just keep moving the pan until the sesame is nice and golden brown. And also, when the sesame reaches a certain temperature, it's going to start popping. So be careful and listen to that popping sound as well. Great, it should be ready. So let's move on to the next step. What? Just gonna move it into this bowl. Stop that roast. Okay, and next we're gonna move it into the blender and mix it with oil and make it into paste form. Remember, this is 100 grams and 100 grams, so it's the same ratio, 1 to 1. And oil, this is just vegetable oil. So you just blend it until it's nice and creamy and smooth. So this is how to make sesame paste for dandan ramen. Okay, and we're going to be using this to complete the dandan ramen later on. Okay, let's move on to the next chili oil. Okay, so for the chili oil, you mix that. First, you want to cook the ginger and the leek in the oil, just like this. I started around 10 minutes ago. And you just want to cook that leek, the green part, and the ginger slice until it's nice and golden brown. It should be ready soon. Okay, just like this. You want to extract that flavor into that vegetable oil. Okay, it's actually perfect right now. So let's just take it out. Okay. So these are ready. So just like this. And now all the flavors moved extracted into the oil. Okay, and next step. Here's mixed spices. I have chili oil, 2 types of chili oil: Japanese chili oil and Korean chili oil, and the Szechuan pepper, and also the sesame. Okay, and this is a great mixture for the spiciness and the aroma. What do you want to do? This is very important. You want to add in a little bit of water. Okay, and you want to mix it so that these dried ingredients are just soaks up the water consistently. And you want to let these dry ingredients soak up the water because this is going to prevent the spices from burning. And also it's going to help extract that flavor and that spiciness. Okay, so just like this. Okay. And next, this is preheated, but you want to heat up that remaining oil up to 180 degrees Celsius. Okay. And it's important that it's 180 degrees. Higher than that, it's going to burn the spices. And lower than that, it's not going to extract that flavor enough. Okay. So you're going to take that hot oil and pour the hot oil into the bowl. And you want to mix every time. Okay. And don't pour in all at once because it's just gonna overflow. So maybe just separate it into a few times, and just make sure you just mix it every time right in the middle. Okay? So this is how to make your chili oil. Okay. And I'm just gonna move it into that different container, and we're gonna be using this for ddandaan ramen. Okay. And you can use this chili oil with that spices, or you can strain it out and just use that red oil. Okay. Okay. So let's complete that two types of ddandaan noodles. First one, I'm going to make the soupless original Chinese version, and we're going to be using this side. This one doesn't have any kansu in it, so it's a little bit whiter than this one. This side is the kansu. This one is the ramen noodles with kansu. Okay. And I'm going to boil these for 1.5 minutes. Okay. When you boil these noodles, make sure the water is rapidly boiling. Okay, 1.5 minutes. Okay. So let's prepare the sauce. So here's the soy sauce based motodare flavoring sauce. So I'm going to take 1 scoop of this flavoring sauce and 1 scoop of that chili oil that we just made, and also 1 teaspoon of this sesame oil, and 1 pinch of this dry shrimp powder. Okay, so the sauce is ready. The reason why I put the sauce into this different bowl is because once the noodles are boiled, I'm going to put that boiled noodles in here and mix it up. And once that noodles are seasoned, I'm going to put it into the final bowl. Okay, 10 more seconds. The soupless ddandaan noodles are perfect for takeout as well. Make sure to completely strain out the water. Into the sauce. And mix it up. Okay, for the toppings, cilantro,多分今バッテリーがピピってなりました。Okay, next we have the minced pork. Okay. And a little of this thinly sliced leek on top. And thinly sliced chili pepper on top for the red. And lastly, some cashew nuts, and this is almond as well. Just gonna sprinkle around. So this is how to make your soupless dandan noodles. So the original Chinese version without soup. Okay, so next, let's make that Japanese version of the dandan noodles. First, I want to heat up the stock. So right here, I have light chicken stock. So I'm going to take just a scoop and a half of this chicken stock and just heat it. Let's just heat this up. Okay. So while the stock is heating up, let's prepare the sauce. Once again, here's a soy sauce based motodare flavoring sauce. So 1 full scoop of this. And the sesame paste that we just made. It smells really good. Okay. And also the chili oil that we just made. Okay, the sauce is ready. Let's fold the noodles. These should be ready in 40 seconds. So make sure to mix the noodles for the first 5 or 10 seconds. Okay. So let's pour the hot soup into the bowl. $20 秒前で上げてもらっていいですか? Okay. So 1 full scoop of this light chicken stock. And before we put the noodles in, you want to mix the soup a little. Okay. And the noodles are ready as well. So make sure to strain out the water completely. And into the soup. And let's line up that noodles. Minced pork, right in the middle. And chopped up leek around it. And bok choy. And also thinly sliced green onion on top. And thinly sliced chili pepper right on top. And lastly, a little bit of this Szechuan pepper, freshly grated. Yep. So this is how to make the Japanese style dandan noodle. But basically, so these are quite different, but basically it's soy sauce flavored with chili oil and some sort of, so it uses sesame oil or sesame paste to give that extra flavor. Okay.